I was recently on a live stream on Two Brothers Outdoors channel, along with John from Davidson's All Natural Gym and the Old Jarhead. We got into a discussion about what's the best way to make the second cut on a log. After making the first cut, do you turn the log 180 degrees to make the second cut, or is it better to turn it 90 degrees to make the second cut? I tried to explain why I prefer to do it 180 degrees, but I thought it might be more effective if I demonstrate why I prefer it that way. So that's what we're going to do today. First, I'll make the first cut. Obviously, I'm going to make the first cut first. You don't make the second cut first. Actually, that will probably be two cuts because I'll take the cap cut, then I'll take a flitch off of it, then we'll get to the good stuff. In the beginning, I said this video was going to be about how to make the second cut on a log. Technically, this is going to be the third cut. What I really should have said was which side of the log to cut second. That makes sense? Which side of the log to cut second? I think you know what I mean. What a lot of people do is they'll turn it 90 degrees, then make the second cut. See the problem I'm having? I'm having to fight this log that wants to roll over this way because it's lopsided. It has, I'm exaggerating here a little bit just for demonstration, but I'm having to fight this log a little bit because it's lopsided. It has more weight on this side because we cut the weight off of this side. I'm going to have to fight this log a little bit to get it to go flush against the log stop. So I have to hold the log up here, put the log clamp in. I need to keep the log stop loose so I can adjust the toe board because I don't want the log tight because then it makes it hard to lift this end. I have to do several things here. I have to make sure the log is square up against the, or flush, not square, but flush up against the log stops. Put this log clamp on and adjust the toe board, all while trying to keep this log from rolling over. On a small log like this, it's really no big deal. It's not hard to hold it up and do all that. But if I have a big log on here that's really heavy, I've got that big log that's trying to roll over on me that I have to maybe hold up with a PV because it's too heavy while I do the log clamp, while I do the toe board. The whole time I have to fight that heavy log that's trying to roll over on me. If while I'm adjusting the toe board, the loose log stop fails, this log could roll over on me, and I hate that. It hurts. So to avoid all of that, I like to roll the log 180 degrees. Perfect. Beautiful. I was having a little bit of fun there exaggerating the problem just to try to make it a little more visual. I don't really struggle that much trying to do it, but the point is when I'm doing all that stuff, I have to fight against this log that is trying to roll over. Now we'll slice this side off, and what will we do? I will show you something. I'll show you why I like doing it this way. Yeah. Now, as I flip this log up, I'm going to try to show you the advantage of doing it this way. That is if this log cooperates and doesn't decide to be one of those odd logs that doesn't do what it's supposed to do and make a fool out of me, which I would not put past any log. Logs can be a wily bunch. Ta-da! Voila! I mean, voila! See, now that the log is balanced, it has the weight taken off of both sides, it stays up. Now I can put the toe board in without even clamping it. I can clamp it without having to hold the log up and keeping it from rolling over. Again, not a big deal on a small log like this, but when you got a big heavy log, it makes a difference. And when I turned the log, it just automatically went flush up against the log stops without me even having to think about it. Maybe you could think of it like this. You're having a sword fight with some dude. You have an epic battle going on, you cut off one of his arms, his sword arm. Now you cut a lot of the fight out of him. That's a little bit like what I did when I cut the first side off. We cut some of the fight out of the log, but like the sword fighter, he could then reach down, grab the sword with his other hand and continue the fight. Just like the log. With one side cut off, it was still continuing to fight, still wanting to roll over. This is really a lousy metaphor. I'm not sure if that works at all for this. But I'll keep going, maybe it'll come around. But then if you were to cut his other arm off, now he has both arms gone, like this one, it has both sides gone. You pretty much take the fight out of him. What's he gonna do to you now without any arms? Just bleed on you? Yeah, I ripped that off from the Holy Grail. I don't know if that metaphor really works here. Let's move on from that. Now the other thing I like, now I know I have two perfectly parallel sides to start from. As long as my mill is adjusted right, I don't have to worry about those two being parallel. If I do it the other way and turn it 90 degrees to make the second cut, those two cuts are only going to be true if I make sure I have it absolutely flush against the log stops while I'm trying to fight that log that's trying to roll over. A good sawyer shouldn't have to worry about that. They should be able to get those true. But this way, I just don't have to worry about it. Gravity is going to hold the log flat against the bed. As long as my saw head is true, I'm going to be starting with two cuts that are true. There are fewer things to do, fewer things to think about to get two sides of the log true, and fewer opportunities to make mistakes. Now I have a log that's easier to deal with because it's not trying to roll. I have less to do and less to think about to make that third cut true. Also, when I have a log with two parallel cuts instead of a log with two perpendicular cuts only, it's easier for me to visualize what to do with the rest of the log. That's just my personal preference. That works better with the way I visualize things. All right, we'll finish this one up real quick. Then the next log, we'll do it the other way, turning 90 degrees, and compare the difference. Now for log number 2, I'll make the first cut like normal. With this one, we'll turn it 90 degrees after that, make the next cut and go from there. If you're wondering what happened here, these logs got dragged through the mud last fall when I logged them. They're covered in mud. I just took an axe and chopped a clean spot where the blade can go and not get in the mud. That's one of the reasons I haven't been doing a whole lot out in the woods here lately. Everything's a muddy mess. Once the weather dries out, then I can start doing more. Let's do it. One of the advantages of turning the log 90 degrees is you only have to turn the log 90 degrees. That saves time because you don't have to turn it as far. With a log this small and a PV, I don't think it really saves that much time. But with the bigger mills with the mechanical log turning equipment, I'm thinking it might take a few more movements to get the log to go 180 degrees than it will to do 90 degrees. I've never used one of those mills, so I might just be making this up. I don't know, but that's how I visualize it. I was just about to make the cut, but I'm noticing I'm not quite square against the log stops. If I did it 180 degrees, gravity's going to hold it flat against the bed rails. So I know that second cut's going to be true. A little bit of monkeying around to get the log flush against the log stops. Maybe I just need more practice doing it this way. Now we roll it again, 90 degrees. Instead of 180, it's a shorter roll. You don't have to roll it as far. Last flip, again, we'll only turn it 90 degrees. And make our last cuts. So what's the takeaway here? Number one, the wind's starting to kick up and I think it's about to start raining. Two, both of these ways have their advantages and disadvantages. Turning 180 degrees, in some cases there's less having to fight with the log that keeps trying to roll over while securing the clamp and doing the toe board while trying to hold that log up at the same time. With bigger logs, it can be more of a hassle. I think on the bigger mills that have mechanized log turning equipment, I'm guessing it's also a non-issue there. The operator's back there running the controls, and the way the mechanical controls are set up, I think they handle that just fine. For me, an advantage of turning at 180 degrees, it's more intuitive to me to know where to make the cuts. I visualize it better that way, and that's probably just a personal thing. It's easier for me to get the cant true and square. The advantage to turning at 90 degrees, you don't have to turn the log as far. It's quicker. What I would say to all of this is try it both ways. See what works best in your case. Eric, the old jarhead, is a big fan of turning 90 degrees. He says for production sawing, he can do it a lot faster that way. He has more experience milling than I do. I'm not going to argue with him on that. He's probably right. On this mill with small logs, I don't know if it makes that much of a difference. With these, I think I'm going to take the old jarhead's advice, which is, he suggested I give the 90-degree turns a real good try. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish these off with the 90-degree turn. I won't be doing that today. It is starting to sprinkle. I might even do these off camera just to give the 90 a better try than I have in the past. We'll see how it goes. I'll see what I think of it after that.